Okay, well, got back last night from Captain America Civil War, and I was expecting great things. The same directing team from Captain America Winter Soldier, the Russo brothers, were back. They did a fabulous job with that movie, one of the best Marvel movies in recent years. Great fast pace, narrative, everything. I loved it, so thought last night would be wonderful. I was totally expecting it to be vastly better than Batman vs. Superman, which, I didn't think was as bad as people said, but, it had its narrative problems, kind of slow and sludgy. So, let's begin. Okay, the opening battle scene in Lagos, Nigeria, where the Cap's small team is hunting for this chemical warfare item. Great. Hey, great. Good pace, great fight choreography. It was neat to see Crossbones, the guy who was from Winter Soldier, show up, and hey, super. Then after Scarlet Witch's snafu, where people get killed when she self-destructs the bomb in the building, came literally like an hour and a half of just really morbid, depressing, uninteresting, well, the scene piling. It was not a good film. Believe me, I counted, because after a while I was starting to look at my watch. It's just sort of dreary politics, meetings, conferences. We catch up more, but Cap is still looking for Bucky. And he's still, but the whole Captain America hand-wringing over Bucky and what he's become and finding him, a lot of that was dealt with in Winter Soldier. It's not fresh anymore. So here, it was just not interesting anymore. Yeah, but Sharon Carter shows up and turns out she's Peggy Carter's niece. But yeah, great. A lot of this felt like leftover deleted scenes from Winter Soldier, just directed with an incredibly solemn, sad pace. So, the bombing at the meeting led us to the introduction of Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther, which was great. He's a great character, so I understand the setup for that. But, also the villain, who, in the comics, Zemo, who turns out to be Baron Zemo, was, another sort of power monger. Here he's just sort of dreary little guy torturing a guy in his apartment. He looks like some some actor from some IFC European art house film, just sort of drearily going along. Who cares? It was dull stuff. So then it picks up once the ambush on Bucky in his apartment, joined by Black Panther. So you have a great action scene there with Bucky, Black Panther, Captain America, nice chasing. Except here, unlike Winter Soldier, the fight choreography is incredibly muddled. They're shooting from different angles at like split-second cuts. I couldn't tell what was going on most of the time, as opposed to like Winter Soldier. You had that great elevator fight, and on the aircraft carrier, you could really tell what was going on. It's exciting. Here, it sort of enters some sort of Bourne Legacy, Paul Greengrass, just cut every second from every angle, and that unfortunately, kind of ruined the moment for me. Then finally, then it leads up to, obviously, Captain America and Iron Man differing over, these accords, whether superheroes should have oversight. Now, would Captain America really disagree about this? A little oversight. At one point, they almost come to agreement. Okay, I'll sign these accords as long as you promise to amend them later, Tony. And then he backs off. It seems contrived. Okay, the road to the Civil War has begun, but come on, with this, he's known Tony for years. They've been working together. They're trusted friends. Would he really just go separate ways about this? But there were some good moments. Like I said, Black Panther's introduction was exciting. Boseman's going to be an exciting addition to the franchise. And of course, we meet Spider-Man. There's the third reboot of Spider-Man in the last 10 years. But he's a teenage kid in Queens, and Tony shows up at his apartment and they have to recruit him for a side. It's a cute moment. The audience loved it. I liked it. Oh, look at, there's Marissa Tomei as Aunt May. I'll even buy that. It's a little queasy that like somehow now Spider-Man's origin is that he's a happy government recruit who doesn't question anything. I mean, that was kind of the neat thing about Peter Parker as Spider-Man, was that he was sort of this, outcast, high school outcast trying to do the right thing, sort of a loner, and now he's just sort of like, I wouldn't go so far as to say Hitler Youth, but it is sort of like, gee, sign me up for anything, who do you want killed? It's a little bit like that. But, hey, I can't argue with the main battle scene. It was exciting as hell. Spider-Man was a great addition there. Paul Rudd coming back as Ant-Man and doing the Giant Man thing. Comics fans know Ant-Man became Giant Man at one point, and he does it. And hell, that was a hell of a moment. Very exciting. I won't argue with the main battle scene, one of the best in years. But having a great couple battle scenes in a movie that's just sort of narratively so the rest of the time does not make the movie great, unfortunately. So, and then of course builds up to the big shocker that Zemo has been planning the whole time, to show footage of how Tony's parents really died. It turns out Bucky, when he was under mind control from Hydra, brutally murdered Tony's father and mother. And now, and this is the impetus for a very sad, horrible fight between Captain America and Iron Man. Captain America's been looking for Bucky for, they say, 7 months, since Winter Soldier. He obviously, and it turns out he knew this at some point along the way. This guy is, an adult, a paragon of virtue and liberty. Why in the hell would he have not told Tony somewhere along the line, hey, listen, I'm looking for my old friend Bucky. He was my old friend from the war years. But he was under mind control, and he did some horrible things. And here, I'm going to break it to you, he killed your parents. Now, will you understand, when I bring him in, I know this is very hard, but can you please try to just understand that he was under control, it was not of his own will. Explain this to Tony somewhere earlier. Don't just sort of lean over his shoulder while Tony's looking at the footage of his parents being murdered and goes, yes, I knew. But you can't kill him, he's my buddy. Is he joking? I mean, how would he feel if he suddenly learned his parents had been murdered by Bucky? Would he still be slapping him on the shoulder and remembering taking the train out to Rockaway for hot dogs with a redhead or whatever the hell they were doing in the 40s? I mean, give me a break! So, so the last battle is, yeah, it's exciting in its way to see Captain America fight Iron Man. It's well choreographed, but it's just sort of sad and depressing, and it's really one of those horrible fights where, friendships are broken, if not forever, then for years, and which makes the very ending completely preposterous. The Avengers, a lot of the Avengers side with Cap are in a prison. They're just demoralized. And then Tony gets a note from Captain America, who's escaped with Bucky. And he says, hey, Tony, guess what? You know what? I'm sorry things turned out that way. I hope you understand someday. And, but, if you're in a pinch, I'll be there for you. And Tony gives a knowing smirk. What a pal. And Captain America gives his smirk. Roll credits. Bucky says, gee, maybe you better put me on ice. I kind of did some naughty things. I better kind of, get out of the loop here. And we're all set for, what? Black Panther solo movie, Infinity War. Give me a break! If you have this kind of knockdown, horrible, brutal, oh my god, I hate you kind of fight, a relationship like that, the Avengers are going to be, as we know it, effectively over. Tony and Iron Man will probably never speak together for years. At the end, they put a little bow on it. Nope, we got to keep the old Marvel corporate franchise going. These guys got to be friends again for the next big summer blockbuster. It was just preposterous, and oh god. So I'm sorry. I I like, I like the actors are all fine. In a way, there was even during the early scenes, there was a fatigue I could sense with Robert Downey's looking his age. He's about 50 now. He's starting to look old as Iron Man. You could tell there was some sort of fatigue in the performance. Maybe that kind of reflected through in the movie. Maybe the Russos, who did such a good job with Winter Soldier, couldn't handle, kind of overwhelmed by all these cast members they had to deal with, and so didn't know how to narratively structure it as well as they did with a smaller cast in Winter Soldier. But Jesus, God, I don't want to see this. What, it's like the Nolan effect in a way too. Every movie has to be so grim. It has to be like Zero Dark 30. The world's suffering and politics has to be in every superhero movie now, and it's just, God, so anyway, that's my 2 cents, folks. Agree, disagree, whatever. That's what I think.